I believe we are live now. A couple people in chat. Good morning. Okay, I'm gonna hit our recording button and kick us off with our intro, and then I'll do my normal introduction. All right, welcome and good morning to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This morning we have a very special guest, Mr. Zipper. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again.
All right, and Neindorf as always. How are you today, Neindorf?
Doing well. Welcome, listeners.
All right, well, so let's talk through a few introductory items. And I am woefully underprepared here, as I thought I would have my notes up. But that's how this morning has been going. I was actually just joking around and telling Mr. Zipper when he jumped on, and now you have to listen to the story again. That's what you get for being early.
Yep.
That I was driving my son to school this morning, and then I went on autopilot and just drove to work, and then realized, hey, I had something going on this morning, and then drove back home, and here I am now to stream. So it was a bit of a wild morning here at the Raph household. Okay, so for my introductory items, I wanted to do a big thanks to the Punch team, Sandwich and Baby Punch, for having me on their stream, and a big thanks to Tosh, who had Neindorf on his stream. We had a lot of fun with that on Tuesday, so if you hadn't had a chance to check out those streams and to check out those YouTubers, they're obviously putting out great content all the time. All right, Neindorf, what's the question of the day?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, given we're in the meat of the sign-up period for the Perilous Journey here, and there's been a ton of discussion on who we're going to send. I thought it'd kind of be a good idea to say, what are you going to miss the most about those heroes that you've sent? Well, A, you don't know if they're coming back or not, but B, what are you going to miss?
All right, Mr. Zipper, you go first.
Yeah, well, the first thing I will say is that I am definitely not going to miss having to send so many gardeners off on quests all the time, because every single hero that I have picked up for this journey is a gardener,
Oh, yes.
and that's just become kind of unmanageable. So I will be happy to bid them adieu for the time being, anyway. Um, what will I actually miss about them? I'm not sure. Well, I'm sure we'll get into this later, but I'm not mostly sending ones that I'm terribly attached to because I'm too sentimental. So, the ones that I actually like and care about are staying close to home.
That's nice. Go ahead,
Fuck
Neindorf.
you, Raph.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
You go first, and then I'll go.
Sounds good. So for me, I really didn't actually acquire very many heroes for this. I've kind of just picked some out of my current hero hold that I'm going to select as members of the journey. So for me, like I said, given that these are heroes that I've owned for a while, I think I'm going to miss. Honestly, I think in the long run, I'm going to see a shortage of runes when these guys return. Like I think I'm going to actually have an impact on my quest outputs. So I think I'm going to miss some of those quest outputs personally. But of course, as a lot of people, it seems like I'm not going to send any of my quality mining crew or heroes that have, there are some one or two sentimental heroes, I suppose I'd say, that I keep it back as well. So that's for me.
Yeah, for me, I would say I am sending, I think, almost my entire stable of heroes. I'm definitely going a little crazy here, and in fact, I'm buying heroes just to send them, and we can get into that a little more later. I guess my thought is I'm probably more so worried about the regret of potential bad decisions. And so, I think I'm making the right play, but if I get some really rough rolls on the survival rates, I think it's going to hurt. I'm going to cry myself to sleep, that's for sure.
I hear you.
All right. Well, the first thing that I wanted to jump into, and we'll save kind of the perilous journey and combat fun for a little later. Let's talk about the grant program. I saw you in the chat yesterday, or in the listener group, Mr. Zipper. Why don't you go first? What'd you think of the AMA?
I think I think it's exciting. There's I mean, first of all, there's plenty that I can't say, obviously, from since I'm a moderator now, but just in general, as Fox is kind of laying out that vision, I'm really excited about it. I mean, I think that actually may have come as a surprise to some people who like kind of maybe didn't realize that this metaverse-ish plan was out there, but that is something that he's talked about in the past, and I think we're finally starting to see it come out a little more explicitly in terms of what that might look like. So, I mean, I think in general that's really exciting. I do, understand some of the concerns that were presented by, some of the community members, just in terms of like, how do you make this work in a way that doesn't unbalance the game, or, that protects, protects what's been developed for DFK. And I definitely get that, so I guess just thinking broadly about it though, like, nobody's ever done this before that I'm aware of, and it seems really exciting, and it'll be some work to get it right, but I think if there's a team that can do it, it's this one, and it'll be really exciting to see what comes of it.
I hear you. How about you, Neindorf? You were able to catch it as well, right?
Yeah, I caught most of it. I think I missed the tail end. I had a meeting I had to bounce out to, but I guess I was a little surprised. I agreed with a lot of the sentiment that it wasn't rolled out maybe the best, because I actually had submitted one and I really just stuck to the Google Sheet form and didn't put an absolute ton into it, because they made it sound like it was going to be a very iterative process and you'd refine it and talk and chit chat about it. And that just like never happened, I guess. Or maybe it's just mine was just too simple and didn't have enough data on it. But that would have been really nice to know, because I was kind of waiting, and I'm like, am I going to get a response? And you hit the submit button and it just kind of goes into the ether. So I kind of hear some people's, concerns there. The thing I was really the most surprised about was there's a lot of negativity around it, honestly. And I think what I disliked about what people were asking and saying is it sounded like people were really trying to treat this grant program as a means to profit. And they were the most concerned about how they could profit from it. Like they wanted to get their tool out there with DFK money, but then they also want to be skimming money on the side or making profits and making it the best place. I guess my ideas of our grants, that the one I did submit and the ones that Raph and I are considering, were definitely not really like that. We just kind of wanted a little bit of funding to help us offset our time and our costs. I was just sort of taken aback that people were, I don't know, primarily seem to be focused on profit here. But I don't really think that's the point of this community that the devs are trying to build. So I don't know. That was my thought, I guess.
Hmm.
It's interesting. I feel like there's probably a place for both of those things in the grant program, because people, I mean, especially large teams, will want to be developing stuff that can, that they can afford, and a $50,000 grant is only going to go so far with a larger team. But I definitely understand, both of those equations. And I suspect, again, this is just the very first one, but I suspect that as more of these come forward, we're going to see a lot more of both of those of kinds of thing, of single developers who were saying, hey, I just want a little support to get my tool a little more refined or whatever. And, we're definitely going to see some of those as well. And I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think too, I maybe I should give a little context. I think the reason I was surprised is because if you look at a lot of the gaming communities out there that don't have grant programs, people just do this stuff because they love it. Like, so
Right.
I was, like I think of games out there, that are still being played. Like there are still, like I was a big like Elder Scrolls guy, right? I love those. There's people still out there making Morrowind mods to this day and improving it and just having fun with it. And they're spending tons of time and effort. Like I think those are the sorts of people that you want in this community. You don't want the people who are basically professional developers, I don't think. I mean, maybe you do. I mean, you need both, I suppose. But I would love to have the hobbyists that are, the tinkerers that are willing to do it just because of pure joy.
See, I can see there being, my problem in life is I often see things as a really wide spectrum. And I think eventually I could kind of see some of what I think Frisky was talking about when it comes to, I think he referenced Ready Player One and that super metaverse someday of like you could take your hero here in a DFK style game and put them into, like Halo battle game, or an MMO game, or you could put them into a racing game or something like that. And so I think that there's like those super, long term, potentially aspirational style goals out there. But with that said, like Neindorf mentioned earlier, we've also been more focused on, what are the potential tools that can augment or complement the current game in place, and how do we, we've been absolutely like, organizing ourselves around, how do we, help. One of the things that's near and dear to my heart, I call it, is the democratization of data. And so some of our tools in the website of what Neindorf's developed and what we're trying to do with Discord and even the podcast itself is how do we bring some of this information to more people to help balance the playing field. And I think I'm definitely probably falling more on the side of what you were starting to feel, Neindorf, as well. And I don't think I understand where some of the animosity, maybe animosity is too strong of a word, was coming from with this. And one comment that I wanted to make, and then I'll turn it back over to you guys for more conversation. But and I liked Meta's feedback to Frisky. It was kind of crazy, like it's like it feels like you're on a fly in the wall with two really smart dudes talking in the room at the same time. But one actually area where, and I think they do have to be cautious about, how do they potentially value or allow heroes to earn value outside of the core game functionality. And I don't think it has to be one or the other, which felt like that was one of the points that he was making. And I think what I'm keeping in mind is there's also still like a lot of inefficiency loss in the game itself. I mean, Mr. Zipper, you talked about sending all of your gardeners right now. What is the primary reason for that? It is so inefficient from a time perspective to send them out for questing. And so I think that there is an avenue out there, whether it's like you just have a slow, more efficient garden that someone develops as an app. You're going to earn less experience, but if you could send someone out and you click on them once a month, like that might have a benefit to someone out there in the world that you don't have to be clicking on them every 4 hours and doing a ton of clicks, because that's the way that gardening is right now. And so I think that there is a ton of opportunity with like the game side development for people to come up with, things that still create efficiencies, create value, but don't take away from the value of the game itself. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. And I mean, I think the thing too is that people are really looking at the game as it exists right at this moment, possibly, and maybe not even thinking about what it may look like in a month or 2 months or something like that. Like, yeah, those gardeners are a little rough right now, but how many, like, we also know that the team is working on changes to that. So it's like, well, do we need a third party thing to to help address that when we know that's coming down the line, and we'll be ready long before any, additional, app or something could be developed. And I know that the kind of longer staking aspect is something that a lot of people have been talking about recently. I think Fanpolis has been really focused on that, and like it seems, from what we've heard from Hubert and a few places, that like other quests will be different than the ones that we have right now. So just because, maybe, it's not super, click efficient right now for some things doesn't mean that it's not going to be different, or there won't be different kinds of quests in the future. And like the Perilous Journey is a good example of that, right? Like we're actually, taking those heroes out of circulation for, I think 9 days,
Right.
once they actually get sent off. So like, I mean, that is a long-term staking contract in some ways. So, I think our horizons will be a little bit expanded, as the game continues to develop as well.
Yeah. How about?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
that's
Neindorf.
good. as I'm sitting here listening, because I kind of had a separate thought, and this was something I was thinking too during that AMA. It almost feels to me like we need to have the grant program needs to be split into two pieces. One piece where you intend to directly integrate with heroes and or tokens, and you want to make something that's going to change or utilize that. And then there's another entirely different third-party application grant program. Like, for example, our website, right? It has nothing to do with the actual smart contract manipulations. It is purely just watching the blockchain or the API in order to provide data analysis. It's like I almost feel like those two camps need to be separated. And then you can have a very stringent review process on the ones that are actually going to say burn hero stamina and give them XP, and things like that. But if you're just planning to integrate with the data side of the game, I feel like that could be a whole other sort of grant program where you're providing utility and kind of the meta game, as you like to call it, Raph. Maybe if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just commenting. I agree with you. I also thought it was a little confusing, as you mentioned early on, Neindorf, in your conversation about this. What progress or how far along or developed do they expect different grants to come in? And so, is this a entry level that is going to need a lot of help by the team before it goes up to vote? Is this something that feels closer to a finished product? Does it need a lot of development? And so I think somehow, some visual indicators on, what their expectations are for how far developed they are, or if they're willing to accept a range of different development, would also be very beneficial and helpful as people are going along.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think caught the community the most off guard, actually, is because, and I think that you're actually approaching this from the other side of the equation. But like, I think, for the team at least, like they brought this proposal forward to say, like, this is, they've laid out a vision, which the community can agree with or not. Obviously they have not developed a product yet. But, we as a team feel that this is something that, we're willing to put to the community as a vote for whether they want, to move forward with it. And I think a lot of community members were actually expecting, essentially a finished product.
More refined product. I know. That surprised me too. When we heard that, I was like, actually, Neindorf and I were texting about it. We were like, oh my God, this is actually really developed from our perspective. But one thing that I think is neat, and not to, just bash on the community, is that I love how how serious they're taking their voting responsibilities. And so I think that at least is that passion, I think, is awesome for the long-term success of the game.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's say, Neindorf here, anything else on the grant program that you want to talk about?
I think that pretty much sums it for me. I think we've had a good conversation here. I think you'll see this moving forward in more AMAs too. So I think we all need to stay tuned.
Mr. Zipper, anything else from you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is just the very first one, and maybe it wasn't what the community was expecting, and in many ways, but there are definitely going to be other kinds of grants. I'm aware of other ones that are making their way through the pipeline that are more in line with some of the kinds of things that you guys were talking about and this kind of stuff that you're doing. So I mean, it will happen. Right now there's one guy trying to review and develop 60 applications, and
wow.
that may change soon, I think, because that's not sustainable, because there actually is so much interest in it, and that's fantastic. So I think there's a lot more that will be coming out of this, and the process will get refined, and I think we'll really start to see a lot of really cool stuff coming out of it.
That's awesome, and I appreciate the insight, and thank you for sharing and pulling back the curtain just a little. All right, so let's. I kind of want to go over to the tavern next. That's what I have up on screen, and I want to talk through some combat aspects before we go into the perilous journey. So first off, I absolutely love the tavern right now. That heroes that are for sale, or heroes that are hanging out there, just showing up in the tavern itself. What do you guys think of that feature? I think that's so cool.
I love it. I was so surprised when I saw it for the first time. Like, who are all these people and what are they doing in my tavern?
Right.
It's really nice to see the world get populated a little bit.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. It's so like I'm just kind of curious what the back end mechanism is to just determine who these are, because I think they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not good at remembering names. I think they are changing occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's actually random.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they change every time. And I tell you what, I cannot not click on them to see if there's a
Oh.
mythic out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Me too. I'm like, okay, I gotta check out. Who are you? I can't wait for it to continue to get more populated. Like maybe they'll have a mythics table later in the tavern when it gets expanded, or like this is an area like the secluded part of the club where the high rollers hang out, and then all of my common heroes will be belly up against the bar.
Yeah, I think they're trying to play with some stuff right now and see how the community reacts and everything. I suspect that we'll see some more developments with some of this. Like, maybe you could have all of the heroes that populate, or some set of them, are ones that are actually for sale on the tavern. So that could just be a random way of showing heroes that you could buy right now. And I bet that would actually move some heroes if there was a random guy in there and people could click and just hit buy real easily.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So one thing that I wanted to jump into and start talking about, in preparation for combat, one of the things that has been on my mind is the reward, and we'll get into this with the Perilous Journey, but the reward that is stats based. And so you get +5 stat points to 3 unique stats. And one feature that Neindorf and I have been using, for me, this is the first time that I've used it, like literally ever, is actually going over to the filter that's the stats filter and starting to plug in, whether it's HP, stamina, well, not stamina, strength, intelligence, wisdom, luck, any one of the 8, conventional stat items, punching in a number like, let's see, how many heroes have a luck of 25 or greater? Applying that, and then taking a peek at those, and then going over to then the sale part of the tavern and actually looking at, all right, how many are for sale that have, 20 or greater luck? And let's take a peek at those. Because as I'm starting to think through who do I possibly want to send, I think there's a lot of last minute hidden value here for some of our listeners, that if you want to take a flyer on someone who would really benefit from those +5 stats, they're already at the precipice of being good from a combat standpoint, because we know that combat is going to be stats based, and maybe we'll explain that a little bit too. So let's pause for a second on buying based on stats, and maybe Neindorf, tell us what you know about the current first stage, or the first rollout of combat being stats based.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know that I have a whole lot of information other than it seems like there's how did they phrase it? It was going to be like around 7 rounds of some sort of comparison with random rolls. Isn't that what we've kind of heard, I believe?
Yeah, I think so. That seems to be about right. And I'm trying to imagine exactly what that looks like. And I think Petrify actually came up with a really good vision of what that could look like. And he's a game designer as well, and likes to post these kind of speculative things. But he said something like, take a D100 die, roll 100 versus your stat score, and have both heroes do that. So if you have 21 luck, you have to either get under 21 or get over 79 or whatever, and then have the 2 heroes do that, and which, they get a point for each time they hit, and, whichever one gets to 7 first, sort of thing. So that could be one way of, just envisioning how that actually plays out. Maybe with some bonuses for, for the matching stat bonuses and stuff too, which I know Hubert has said is a part of it.
Right. It almost seems like a weighted version of rock, paper, scissors. Like,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm getting excited. I think idle combat to me, the future vision or what we know about it for combat is near and dear to my heart. Whether it's turn-based games or strategy and chess style games, I love the idea of trying to build a party of characters, of heroes, setting your skill tree, and then setting the order of how you're going to use your skills in this combat against, and we don't know what the level of visibility would be against the team that you're facing. And I think that there's going to be so many rock, paper, scissors elements in the future combat of the game that it's going to allow for a ton of fun strategic conversations. And I feel like we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg here with just starting to look at stats and realize what's potentially out there. So I think that's pretty neat. So right now I have up on screen the Tavern section for buying heroes, and I'm sorting by stats. And one of the things that you can do right now is punch in, so I just punched in 22 minimum intelligence just to see who's out there right now. There are summoners level 6 for 95 jewel on the marketplace. And it's just crazy to me that, if they get then plus 5 to that and they're a 27 level intelligence, let's jump back over to the barkeep and look at the hero catalog. And if you sort by the number of heroes with 27 intelligence, clicking apply now, there's 64 heroes out there. And the ones that are, let's look, because I'm seeing a lot of level 10s. Or we'll click non-gen zeros because they won't be eligible for the plus 5 stat bonus. So then your number goes to 61. And if you move your level slider and go heroes under level 6 or 6 and under, there's only 53. So I mean, and maybe that one's an example of where you'd actually want to look for, instead of 22 intelligence, maybe 23 or 24, and start to push that number. Anyways, I'm doing a lot of mathing here on the fly. Neindorf and Mr. Zipper, I gave you guys a little bit of homework to look at what is either thematically something that you're looking for if you're buying in this kind of price range, or potentially do you even have a hero picked out? And so Neindorf, let's go with you first. What is your I gave you the category of heroes under 50 jewel. So do you see anyone that's under 50 jewel that you think would be a great steal? And if you're making a buying decision based off of looking at a hero that's going to cost less than 50 jewel, what are your critical elements of what you're looking at?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I like your approach. You're talking basically, let's try to max a particular stat, which has a very unique sort of idea on how combat could play. I think there's also a counter strategy where you want to try to have the highest overall stats to get, say your summoner there. What if this happened to be a role in PvP where agility came up or dexterity, then your summoner, you're like, oh man, like I got no chance on this one. Strength, especially. So I think my approach, which I love that idea of looking at maxes. I think another approach is just to focus on, for your level, how many cumulative stat points do you have? Like how well-rounded is this hero? And then combine that with your, more specifically, at the moment, your blue gene, because that has an additional impact moving forward, whereas the green gene's kind of already figured in, at least from a stat point perspective. So kind of with that in mind, the other thing I wanted to look at is level, because if I can pay the same amount for a higher level hero, I'm going to do that every day. So those are kind of the criteria I put in. And so I just first started with level 5 and above with 50 jewel and under, and I didn't find any, which I'm not surprised. So people value that level 5. I dropped it down to level 4 though, and I got 5 output here, 5 heroes. So then I'm flipping over the cards, and I got that Chrome plugin where it adds the stats to your card, and so it adds up how many stat points are there for you.
Oh, I need to get
Um,
that.
yeah, it's pretty slick. And so there's a level 4 warrior monk, and he's got boosted endurance, which is green. Now he's got or blue, sorry. His dexterity is green, so that's fine. He is a forager, which doesn't seem all that valuable, but cumulatively he already has 84 stat points for a common hero. So that's quite a bit higher than the other heroes I'm seeing at 50 jewel or under. I think the closest other one I see is 81 maybe. So he's got, I mean, sure, 3 more stat points, right? But he's only level 4 too. So, those will have a chance to basically someone has rolled good luck rolls on his level ups, and I will put that as a higher value. I'd had a hero I leveled up yesterday who got +2, like in all of his categories. I was like, ouch. Luckily, he's one of my minors, and both of the two were endurance. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought process here.
So I like that, you're looking at gaining value from both a level up standpoint and a luck standpoint. And so you're saying, I'll let someone else do the clicking for me. I'm going after the higher level heroes because that is a pain and a real drag to go do that many quests. When they're leveled up already, they're going to have, like this guy has, I have him up right now, 13.4 foraging. That's no slouch. And 2/3 of the value of what they're bringing in is coming back from that score, and the other 1/3 is coming from a reasonably high dexterity on the foraging side. So I think that's a really unique approach. And then, like you said, you're also getting a hero that may be undervalued that had really good luck in his statistics of what he rolled on the level up. And so it has whether total stat points or stat points in the right places. What do you think, Zipper?
Yeah, I can't disagree at all with this approach. I think it's exactly right. I mean, looking for that kind of value in places where you might not expect it, and that's not dissimilar to how a few months ago we were all saying, oh well, where can we find cheap heroes with advanced genes? I think it's the same sort of things. Like, if what's everybody looking at, and then okay, well, what are people not looking at yet? And so I love, like, well, which stats are they going for? And that Chrome tool is a great one. I recently added to HeroBot a little function that will tell you how many stat points above or below average for the hero's class, subclass, level, rarity, stat boosts. So like
Awesome.
to figure out
Nice.
exactly where in that ranking they are. So that'll give you like, okay, well they're level 4 but they're only +1 over their average stats for for a similar hero or something like that. So that can be a place to keep an eye on. And I've seen some heroes that are like +10 over average, which is just
Nice.
nuts. um
Wow.
so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But I do love the approach too of thinking like, okay, well, you could try to buy a hero specifically for Perilous Journey, either because it's going to survive and get the best value out of, the cost versus the chance of survival versus all of the potential rewards for dying or not dying, and thinking about it that way, or saying like, okay, well, this hero would really benefit well from a certain from that stat boost or something like that. And so and then looking at those stats, and as you were saying, Raph, you're like, oh well, let's look for the ones that are already really high on a particular stat and go all in on that. So like, I think if you were looking at a slightly higher end of heroes, if you were looking in the rare legendary range, you would want to take a look at those. Well, level 5 is going to be harder because they're going to be a lot more expensive. But look at the ones where those random rarity boosts have landed on the right stats, and it might be harder to find deals there possibly. But if you really wanted to find something that could potentially be super competitive for these land tournaments or something, whether the survivor land tournaments or just the regular ones, trying to find those places where you have somebody with 20 or 22 in a particular stat already, and they're definitely out there, and they may not be valued fully. So one hero, you had asked me to find a hero under 150 jewel. And so one that kind of stuck out to me potentially, we're actually looking in the rares and the level fours, so we're in the right place already. But I was actually looking at advanced heroes,
Okay.
advanced classes, because those tend to,
Let me filter it
um,
down to advanced class. We'll not have you
yeah,
give it away
exactly.
yet, so
Okay.
we'll guess. All right. Filtering on advanced classes, rare, level
Yeah, and
4 and above.
you can probably guess which one actually stood out to me already, and it's the one that's a lot cheaper than the rest of them.
Yeah.
Because again, you're looking at this advanced class. It's got rarity bonuses. It's got a bunch of gardening already, but this is maybe not one that's going to win you a land tournament. But take a look at those stats. Like you've
Yeah.
got 16 agi, 15 dex, 15 luck, and 12 vitality, which is, or with the blue boost on vitality. So like there's some interesting stuff going on there. Like that's a really well balanced hero, and if you were to put +5 stats on those three places, like that would be pretty solid, going forward. Which is interesting. And then the other thing that caught my attention too is that it's a ninja archer, so you have like a nice alignment,
Of dexterity.
pretty nice
Yeah.
alignment, yeah, of that subclass as well. Which, as we know now, thanks to metas, is pretty much the most important thing to look at
Yeah.
in terms of future stat growth.
Yeah, I like this. I like your approach here of looking also at the advanced classes, and I can't help but wonder, and I feel a little, bitter about this at the moment that I've been going through and doing a pure Gen 1 10 of 10 summon strategy, and two of my groups were pirate monks. And so as I've been selling off my common ninjas at a really discounted price, I've been, feeling like ninjas are just entirely undervalued in the market. And I think you're seeing that here too, that the lowest
Yeah.
priced hero by a long shot is a ninja. I think, and as Hubert has mentioned before, heroes and their stats are all balanced based on combat. And so I think that there's going to be a place for potentially all hero classes in the game. Sure, there are going to be some classes that, naturally as a metagame develops are going to be weaker than others. But I think that, if someone's really looking for some long-term hold, I love that you picked a ninja. I think that's the right way to go.
They're starting to become my favorite class as well.
Yeah.
Maybe because they seem to be undervalued, but like they're really cool.
They're the underdogs, yeah. Okay, so tell me, let's get into combat some more on the theme of ninja. I wasn't planning on doing this, so I'm going a little off script. What role do you feel that agility, or in this game, really speed, is going to play in idle combat in the future? Maybe Neindorf, you go first.
Sure, yeah. So I think, it's going to be one of those modifiers like we're used to seeing, right? Like the damage per second, when this comes out to actual combat. And is your ninja, it seems like, given that he doesn't have high amounts of strength, say, that it's going to be a modifier for how many attacks per second he has to really stack up his damage. And that's kind of an interesting thing too, because you counter that with a thief, right? Is a thief like one surgical strike slowly that does a lot of damage? If you kind of think of it that way. So I think each of these stats for their classes are going to be extremely interesting to see how they play out. And I think the other thing we got to remember too is there's more classes that we don't even know about yet. We're going to see two new ones here with Crystal Veil, and hopefully in the near future. And
Three
so
new
that's going
ones,
to
in fact.
yeah, throw another wrench into the works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be fascinating because you get the two basics and the new advance too, which is super exciting. And I
Is
feel
there
like
going to be
sometimes,
a new
yeah, there.
profession also?
Ooh, I don't know about that. Feel like I've heard people speculating on that, but I don't feel like I've heard enough confirmation on that yet to be certain. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, all of this will be rolled out, slowly as well. I mean, faster than the first time, but it'll be a little while, I think, before we see see new heroes starting to come out of Crystal Vale.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but sorry, we got totally off topic there.
No,
So,
that's all right.
you
Um,
know the
Go ahead.
go ahead.
We have another question that came in. Are you okay with? Or do you have something on agility that you want to touch on? Otherwise, I'm going to go to one of our YouTube questions.
I mean, I was just going to say really quick that I do wonder if agility will be the sort of thing that determines the order of actions in combat, or the
Oh,
order of heroes happening. It's, that's not explicitly what it says in the docs, but I do what, will the ninja just be the first one to go or the thief, because they've got the high agility there. So that might be a possibility as well.
I
Yeah,
love that.
I I think that I think you're spot on, and I think if you look at a lot of turn-based games, agility is actually or speed is actually one of the most important stats in the game because it allows you to attack first. And when you're in an environment where whether it's turn-based or it's like idle, where it's kind of like predetermined turn bases, if you think about it, if you can attack before your opponent can strike back, you can, whether you're both whittling down your health, if you deal the final blow, they're not hitting you back, and then they have to send out their next hero. So I think that there is a ton of value in agility that just is not being tapped into right now, whether it's first strike or, kind of getting in that last strike before you can knock someone else out before they knock you out. All right, so we had a chat in YouTube here. I wonder if HP will play a role in 1v1 battles. Like maybe the rolls subtract from the HP of your opponents based on the skill stat of the battle until one is exhausted. So, Mr. Zipper, that's kind of similar to what you were describing. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it as an idea. I think it's fantastic. I'd love to see something like that implemented. I have no idea. That would be really cool so that it wasn't just purely about that one stat, but that if it was rolling for that one stat and then actually dealing combat damage and taking away from the hit points would just add a little bit of an extra layer to it. I don't know if that would specifically end up benefiting certain kinds of heroes or not, but like it sounds really interesting and seems like it could add an extra layer. So I would love to see that.
All right. Well, let's go to anything else on combat before we move on to peanut butter and jelly?
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, I love that.
All right. Well, now for the main event. Mr. Zipper, maybe I'll have you kick us off first. How are you approaching the pajama program?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I hinted at this earlier. I think for me, the most important thing is just to get some heroes out there, make sure at least one of them survives, get the achievement, maybe get some crystals and some actual crystal, maybe some other kinds of stones and crystal, get all the rewards from it, and have just participated. I am not a min-maxer in this kind of environment. I'm if we consider this from a financial standpoint, I'm a really conservative investor. I don't even know what I'm doing in DeFi in the first place. So I'm not like you who's going to send out their entire barn. So like I said, I've picked up a handful of heroes that I thought were, a pretty good value for the price that I paid for them in terms of, hopefully getting some basic returns on them. But I'm not sending out my most valuable ones, both because of sentimental reasons and also because, like, I feel like every hero I own has like a specific place in, like there's a specific reason that I bought it. It's, because they're triple advanced commons or double advanced legendaries or whatever, but like they all have some sort of a purpose or like are really good, and I would be really sad to lose them. And maybe that's precisely why I should send them, is because like, oh, these are heroes that would really benefit from those plus 15 stats and from everything else, or even could be competitive. But like, I kind of figure I'm not going to win the Gen Zeros. I'm not going to win the land tournament, and I'm okay with that. So like, I just want to make sure I participate. We'll send some gardeners off to their deaths, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them if they come back.
All right, Nine Dwarf, how are you approaching this?
Well, I think, excuse me, for me, it's kind of ever changing. I think I have it figured out, and then 6 hours later, I refigure it out, and I'm like, no, 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 I was wrong. No, I keep going through this, and overnight, like I woke up this morning feeling like, I've been looking at these heroes that are for sale in the tavern, and I've been noticing a definite price appreciation for heroes that are, I will call them higher quality. Like Raph, you and I have been looking at like the mythic or legendary market for purchases, right?
Yeah.
And those prices have been wandering up pretty consistently, I would say. Um, and so that made me think, this is a large gamble, right? Even the rare sage that I want to send, who I've already rented out twice to burn off those summons and extract all that value. Like, do I really want to wage that remaining 300 jewel that's about value in that hero? Or if these prices keep creeping up before the end of it, I might actually consider listing that sage for sale and just make a profit and then just drop that money in the gardens and wait for the heroes to return. So I'm like all over the place right now still. I think personally I have a mythic warrior I plan to send. He's got a couple summons left, but again, cost prohibitive, like they wouldn't provide any value. I've got another legendary I'm considering, my rare sage. The one that I'm really on the fence about, and Raph, I was talking to you yesterday about this one. I have a rare summoner who's actually level 6, has the gardening gene, my number one gardener, right? But if I look at this hero, um, it already has. Let me hit the button so I can flip over to the card here. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen, so I'll just have to talk to it. Intelligence at 27 and wisdom at 21 and a grand total of 118 stat points total. Like, so I'm like, this character is kind of a beast. Like, do I, just keep it to pull, my half a jewel or whatever it is every gardening quest and just make some money? Do I sell this hero I bet you, I was looking in the market, there's no hero even near this hero in terms of stats for sale right now.
What's
I'm seeing level ones and
what's
level
his he-
twos.
what's his hero number? I'll bring
Yeah,
him up on
let's
screen.
pop it in. Yep, 53651.
All right.
And this is one that I summoned a long
Ethlin
time ago.
Greyforce.
Yeah, and I love the name too. I think the character looks kind of cool too. But yeah, look at those stats. Like, I mean, this this guy's rolled well. So I plugged this hero number into our webpage. And I love the part where it's like your average stacking per level. And it's at a 9.4. So basically, including the rare bonus, at level 5, this character's averaging almost 9.5 stat gains per level. So this is the one that's been lucky, right? So,
Yeah.
this is the hardest one for me to decide. Like, he's already 27. If he comes back and he survives and he's at a 32 for intelligence, and that could be crazy, right? So I don't know. What
And
do you
more
guys
than
think
that, because
about this?
level 7 as well, because you get the XP bonus, so
Oh, that's
you're going to
true.
get even more of some of those stats. Yeah,
That's
that's a
true.
nuts hero. Um, that's absolutely crazy, and I would have a really hard time sending that. But I mean, I think this is what I was saying too. It's like the ones that are the hardest to send are the ones I think that are probably going to get the most benefit from it if they survive, and that's the dilemma that this entire um, event sets up for everybody, is that it's really hard to make those decisions because it is indeed high risk, high reward.
Yeah, and I think I'm leaning towards not with this character simply because wisdom and intelligence are both stat boosted, and those are the two number one summoner skills, and it's a gardening profession. So those are things that you'll get no value for in death. So honestly, that alone is the one reason that's really making this hard. Now, if there was a bonus to sending max better heroes in death, then maybe that would tip the scales. But it's yeah, this is the one that's got me just racking my brain trying to figure out what to do as the days tick by here.
Yeah, mine is a. I'll bring him up on screen here. All right, so mine is my legendary Dark Knight, who, let me bring him up. All right, so I have a legendary Dark Knight, Amphril Rock Shadow. His strength is 29, and he's level
Wow.
6. And when I looked at that a day and a half ago, he's one of 9 heroes who have strength 29 and above. And a few of
Yikes.
those are level 10s, obviously. So I think he's one of those guys that, I'm starting to kind of feel that same pressure that you are. He's a forager level 17, and with decent dexterity and intelligence as a Dark Knight. So he is hauling in he's my number one forager by far. But he's one of those guys that I feel like I might actually have a shot at a land tournament with him. And there's a little bit of fear of missing out. That's playing into my calculus, which is, if it's kind of like a battle of escalation. If I don't send him on this trip, I'm worried that instead of being one of 9, he'll then be one of, realistically, probably hundreds that end up jumping up 5 whole stat points. I mean, there could be, if you think about it, it's probably a lot like a normal distribution where you see, very few heroes on, the head or the tail of that normal distribution. And there's probably a couple hundred that are, just behind him in that, that 27, 28 range. So that's something, well, actually, I guess I could look at that right now.
What's his hero number, by the way?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
36789.
Yeah, 36789.
And I gotta say, I mean, I looked it up, and HeroBot as well has rolled +9 over
Wow.
average. So I mean, that's insane.
He's a beast.
So
Yeah,
yeah, and on our website, his average gain per level is 11 stat points. I don't know that I've ever seen that. So he's already ahead of the curve without even going on the journey. So in my mind, he's already got the luck on his side. That would be the info I need to keep him back home and say, let's just let this guy ride. He's already on a winning horse.
So, and I guess there's a part of me that just kind of feels like, what's his survival rate right now?
59%.
59%. He'll also join a Gen 1 boat, so he'll jump right up to 62%.
Zero.
Yeah.
Or a Gen 0 boat, yeah.
But that's still pretty high chance of dying for such a phenomenal character.
Yeah. So let's look at this. So I'm gonna look at Hero Viewer catalog here and just punch in let's just say 26 strength overall. There are 41 heroes. If I punch in 25 strength overall, there's 65 heroes and 24 strength. So I guess by comparison, my fear of missing out isn't quite as bad. So 24 strength and above, there are 96 heroes there. And so let's just say if every one of these went on the journey and half of them made it, there's another, 30 heroes, 40 minus 9 that are already there at this guy's 29 and above level. 30 more that are in his rank. So I guess that's not quite as bad as I was kind of fearing. I don't know. So like you said, Ninorf, I'm going back and forth every day. Can't decide if I should send him or not. Gosh, yeah. What do you guys think? What do you think? You already told me, Ninorf. What do you think, Mr. Zipper?
I mean, it's the same dilemma, right? I mean, he's definitely competitive right now for stuff, but if you send him and he makes it, then, you know,
He's god tier.
you could probably win. Yeah, he's god tier. You could probably win the one strength land tournament, like has a decent shot at that, for the special set, or, certainly a great shot at all of the rest of them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a tough decision. One of our viewers has a similar question about a common Dark Knight level 6 with 27 strength, and for a common, that's nuts.
That's
Um,
really good.
and
That is
I
an
looked that
awesome
one up
stat.
too, and that one's rolled -7 on average for its level ups, which means that basically it's all strength and everything else is like has no stats at
Wow.
all. So like, I mean, but maybe it's easier to send. I mean, I don't want to speak to this viewer's personal situation, but if Raph were your hero, you maybe would have an easier time sending the common Dark Knight who has great stats than and could still be really competitive than the super valuable legendary that has very similar
Yeah.
stats. That's probably just an easier thing to do just because of the value of the hero. So maybe that says something about like where we should be looking for those, ultra valuable heroes that we want to send are actually the common ones, the ones that are less valuable but still have really significant stat points. I don't know.
And you got to remember too that if they do survive and come back, and maybe they have a negative average roll for things, this is an opportunity to right that wrong a little bit too,
That's
you
for
know.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was actually kind of fun. Any other listeners right now that want to give us? We'll maybe go through 2 hero ID numbers. And just a quick reminder that the stream is a few seconds behind our voice, so it might look a little funny. But go ahead and drop into chat, and we'll wait here about about a minute for these to come in. We'll do the next 2 hero IDs that show up. If there's someone you want us to take a peek at, and our esteemed panel here will give you our thoughts on if we'd send them or not, before we go on to the next topic. So this has been fun doing a live chat. The last time we tried doing a live stream, it was a total disaster. I ended up giving away. I tried to summon for C9N, gave away the wrong hero. Anyway, so we're trying to rectify that and make this a little more interactive in the future going forward. And now my computer is not crashing. Well, so far, so that's a good thing. All right. Well, we'll wait just a couple more seconds here as this starts. Hopefully, rolls in if someone else wants to take a peek at it. All right, so as we're looking to fill time, maybe Mr. Zipper, take us to how to, I call them death crystals. They're atonement, attunement, enhancement, a something meant a cement crystal. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe it's a boat anchor. Throw the hero overboard with it, and the crystal comes up. Death crystals has just been easier for me to comprehend. Give us the brief rundown on maybe what are these crystals that we can earn on the journey, and how much are that. We've kind of already talked about stat points valuing into our decision. How are crystals weighing into your decision?
Yeah, I mean, as I kind of mentioned before, like since I've been looking kind of purely at the material rewards, like that's definitely something I'm looking at. Of course, it's really hard to value them because they don't mostly don't exist yet. So that's its own separate thing. But I mean, just to take a step back for a minute, we've started to see a couple of these different kinds of stones and crystals. So like there's 2 categories. There's the enhancement stones, and these are ones that you use at summoning. They can only be used, once, obviously, and only 1 per summon. But these will give a permanent bonus to the summoned hero. And for these lesser enhancement stones, and we've seen a couple of these in game already, these lesser chaos enhancement stones, which pick a random stat, gives +4 to that stat, +3% to the primary stat growth of that stat, and +5 to the secondary stat growth of that stat. So like these are, permanent boosts that come into play every single time, the hero levels, that'll increase its overall stats over time. So, those are going to be really exciting. The cool thing about what we're getting from this, from the Perilous Journey, is that these stones are going to be attuned I shouldn't use that word because that's just going to get more confusing, will be focused on a specific stat. So, depending on what, your hero is good at, that's the kind of stats that you're going to, or the stones that you'll get back. So, you'll be able to have one for strength and for dex and for agi and, for everything. So if you're trying to, I mean, that's a gamble too. When you're summoning, you're, kind of banking on what kind of hero you're going to get out of it. If you're going to, give it permanent bonuses to certain kinds of stats. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those crystals be more valuable than others, or people maybe even changing their summoning patterns in a way to say like, oh, I want to make sure I get something that's going to be able to use the strength stone, or maybe that means that vitality ones are really valuable because everybody wants it. I don't know, so all sorts of possibilities there. So that's going to be really exciting for summoning, to see more of those coming into the market. And then the other ones are the attunement crystals. And we have one kind of attunement crystal already, and that is the Atonement Crystal, which is a subset of Attunement Crystal. And I thought that was the most crafty name I had ever heard of when it was first announced.
Right.
And it has actually been the most annoying thing ever, because it's ended up being so confusing for people. And, those are to fix bugs. They're one-time use. Only once of one of each kind per hero. And those in general should be very limited. Like, that's not going to be a big thing going forward. So the attunement crystals, on the other hand, the regular attunement crystals we have not seen yet, but these are going to be very common, I think. I mean, not common, but they're going to be something that people are using very frequently during leveling. So, I mean, you can use one of these of any kind every single time you level, and they give a temporary, not temporary, but they give a chance to boost the stat growth, primary and secondary, for for that particular level up. These are not the permanent bonuses, because that would be insane. But rather, as you level up, you get the plus 5% to primary and 15% to secondary for a lesser. So, if you use one of these every level up, all 100 level ups, you're going to end up with, plus 20 or plus 40 stats to your hero on average. So, those are going to be a major component. And I was looking back at the chat, and I saw that Hubert, back in, I don't know, October or November, said that these are going to be craftable as well. So I'm hoping that'll still be the case. I don't know when that'll come out, but, I think in general, these are going to be, something that we're generally using all the time.
Well, that's fascinating. That makes me want to go buy a bunch of floor price wizards and send them on the boat and turn them into crystals that I can then feed to my rare summoner. And then he doesn't have to risk it. Ooh.
Exactly.
So
interesting.
To accomplish that strategy, you would need to, you'd have to be leveling up, and you would be boosting then the roll percentage of that level up. And so right now, if your summoner, what would it, like a wisdom or an intelligence be, like 85, I think, on a summoner
580,
roll?
something like that.
And so you could, a major one that boosts it by 10%, I mean, it's almost close to a sure thing. And it boosts it, 10%? And then, like, I think 30% for the secondary. What's your summoner's secondary, Neindorf?
His secondary is wizard.
Ooh. So that's probably 20% on both, or somewhere between 17 and 20%. That goes up to 50%.
He's staying. I think you guys just helped me decide.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right. I'm going to jump back over to... Thank you for that, first off, Mr. Zipper. I feel like I was able to comprehend that. We do not have any other hero numbers in chat yet. And someone has asked, do you want to talk about DFK Arena? Yeah, we could. Let's do that. Maybe we did not get into that very much already. Maybe let's do that here in a little bit once we close out the Perilous Journey discussion. Okay, so what else do we have on our talking points for the Perilous Journey? Anything else that we need to make sure that we're covering?
I think I wanted to run through the stats. I think, could you pull up the Mr. Zipper's tool and do the J stats real quick?
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me.
Let's just talk through these real quick because I think it's very fascinating.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give me an intro while I'm getting this up and rolling.
Well, here, I've got one thing that I just wanted to add back on that crystal discussion while you're pulling that up, and then we can get into this. Is that, if those crystals, the attunement crystals for leveling, are going to be super common going forward, I hope that you have all used your atonement crystals already because you can, only do one crystal per level up, and you're going to want to start being able to spend those in other ways. So, if you haven't already, get those done.
That's a good point. And if you try to use one twice, it just won't let you
Yeah,
start the level up, correct?
correct.
Okay, good. Because at this point, I don't remember who I've used them on. I feel like I've used three, maybe four, and I still have several of each kind left, and I should have been better at tracking that. But as long as it just doesn't let you do it, then I think that answers my question.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm ready to go here, Mr. Zipper. What are my bot commands that I need to punch in?
You need to hit /J stats.
This is awesome, by the way. I really appreciate you putting this together because I had no idea how I was going to learn about this, and then it's fantastic that the community and you in particular put stuff like this together in such short order.
Yeah, I was I was really trying to get this one ready to go around the time that everything went live, and it was a little late, but still managed to get it going. It's a little buggy, but it's a short-term thing anyway, so it'll
Right.
just work for now.
All right, well, I have it up on screen now, and do you guys want me to share my screen with you on our Discord chat, or can you
I have it
navigate to
up
this?
separately
I've got
myself.
it up already. Yeah.
All right, so well, Mr. Zipper, first up, thank you for developing this. Like Neindorf said, awesome. What's sticking out to you as you're looking at this? Maybe we'll go back and forth. So you give us 1 point, Neindorf, you go, and then I'll go after that.
Yeah, so I mean, first point is that we are just a couple days into signups, and 2% of all heroes have been signed up to this thing already. Um, and that's going to increase dramatically. I mean, I can't believe that 3,000 heroes have been sent here. Who are going to be doing nothing for the next 5 days or whatever it is.
Right.
Which is really incredible. So I mean, I think that by the time we actually get to the end of this sign up period, we're going to see a lot of heroes. I would not be surprised to see 20 or 30,000.
All right. I agree. I think that yeah, I maybe even think more than that. Because how many are in population total now? We're up to
About 145,000, I think.
wow. Yeah. Okay, Neindorf, what's sticking out to you?
So I think what sort of surprised me after you were on Sandwich and Baby Punch's stream there, where we were kind of discussing the lack of value in sending common heroes. It seemed like that they didn't gain you. They had a high probability of death, and you didn't get very many raffle tickets. So I think I was sort of surprised. I kind of got behind that idea. I was sort of surprised by the sheer volume of common heroes here, honestly, and then therefore the lack of mythic heroes.
Hmm.
There's only 30 mythic heroes signed up so far, which is a very small number in my opinion. So I think that stuck out to me first of all. Um, and then I think, there's things that weren't surprising too. Like, look, a lot of gardeners. We've talked about that, right? And people don't want to click through those. And then not many miners, of course. People are using those to get that lock jewel. So those are the first things that I've noticed.
Hmm. Very interesting. I One thing that's interesting to me is the if you kind of look down the class in advanced class, um, how actually similar the numbers are of heroes going. It's not like there's 300 ninjas going and only 50 dark knights. So it feels like kind of the way I'm interpreting that is, whether it's each wallet or all wallets are kind of putting a similar level of risk to the class of hero. I guess I thought there would be more variance there than
Like,
there is.
thinking that there are certain classes that people don't want, like just like the same with the gardening, like,
Right.
oh, we don't need these classes, send them.
Yeah, and I think more so as we talked
Being
about
the
earlier,
pirate.
like ninjas are undervalued in the tavern. I assumed that that kind of would play out here as well. That people and maybe that'll be the case over the rest of our time. When is it? Monday at 2 p.m.
I think so, yeah.
2 p.m. our time. Yeah, so I think this is yeah, awesome tool. I'll continue to look at it. I don't. I think this will, yeah, maybe start to play into maybe some of my more common heroes, whether or not I send them. But I guess I don't know. It's more of like kind of knowing if you're keeping up or not. So one of my strategies right now, and I at first kind of like to preface this with um, plugging first off the alert system. So we use the alert system, got this going and rolling, and I've been doing a summon strategy. And if you also check out Sandwich Punch's Twitter handle, he's done a kind of a there's still money left in summoning, a few newsfeed announcements and just overall statistic tracking of he bought a whole bunch of floor Gen 1 10 of 10 heroes and summoned away with them. And I think something that's interesting is that he was actually, making Jewel back on the heroes that he was summoning. And, I found similar levels of success with summoning Pures, and it didn't quite net as much profit as I was hoping for, but enough that it freed up some Jewel where I actually went out and bought another Mythic to send on the journey. And when I looked at Mythic basics, I think they started at 61 or 62%, I think, survival rate. And the way that I was thinking about it is they could become combat beasts in the future. And my calculus was, if you're sitting on one Mythic already and I told you you could pay 300 Jewel to give him +5 on 3 different stats, as a Mythic owner, you would probably take that. And so, kind of the opportunity cost an analysis of what I'm ultimately saying is, you might as well just then have two. You're sending them both out, and you're expecting one to perish on the journey. And then you're kind of paying that 300 Jewel, which was the floor price of Mythics about a week ago, to get one back that has that boosted +5 stats in 3 different categories. So that's kind of been my calculus of what I've been playing into. And so I was a little, again, I'm not surprised that there's only 30 Mythics up to this point, because also they should have good questing rewards. So I guess I'm still surprised that there's this many heroes this early on, like you said, Mr. Zipper.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes up. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised maybe that there's only 30. I don't know. It's hard to know what to make of these. It's like, should we expect that everybody's going to put all of their most expensive assets at risk? I don't know, but I do like the way that you're thinking of that, in terms of, like, instead of thinking about it as losing a hero, it's like, okay, well, no, you're paying a certain amount for the chance that probably one of them is going to come back, hopefully.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're in trouble.
Otherwise, I will be very sad. Sad day.
The other thing I noticed on this chart here, there are 2 Gen 9s signed up. Wow, those were expensive summons. That's all I have to say. I didn't know that there were, like, I don't know. That's just fascinating to me. And 8 Gen 8s, like, yikes. These are expensive summons people paid.
I mean, there are only 27 Gen 9s in existence, so
Oh, oh wow.
Uh, they're
the other thing. Oh,
go,
go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna make a silly comment. So yours is more productive than mine.
Well, the thing that I wanted to point out here, what was really interesting to me, is how many pirates there are. The pirates are the number one class being sent, and I wonder if that is reflective of, maybe because people don't really know how to place pirates in PvP yet. Although I would have thought that Monk would have been at the top of that list. But it's funny. Like, I have to wonder if people think that, like, there's a secret mechanic that that pirates are more likely to survive this this water journey or something.
Less likely to
I
be
don't know.
eaten by the Kraken.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other interesting thing is right below that are wizards, but wizards are actually the least common basic class right now. I don't know if you know.
Oh,
I've been writing about harping on this for a few weeks in my newsletters that like there's actually a pretty significant disparity between the numbers of basic classes. Like, so I mean, I just pulled it up. There's about 15,500 knights, which are the first one. There's only 13,500 wizards. So like they're right at the
wow.
bottom by like a pretty significant number.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised then to see wizards, so much higher on on the list of heroes being sent. I don't know if it's meaningful, but it's just, we'll see what it looks like at the end of things. But it's interesting.
Yeah. I like the spread of levels too. Like I think I was kind of expecting it to skew more towards upper, but then I got to remember too that there's populations, there's not a lot of heroes at the higher levels. So to see that many level sixes and fives is actually means people are trying to min and max, I think. I think they're trying to max stats like we've been talking about. I think that's kind of what that shows me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of wrap up the combat corner and then maybe give some quick thoughts on the DFK arena. What do you guys think of? And I don't know, Mr. Zipper, if you don't really want to comment on that project because you feel like you might be too close to it, especially after some
I
of
can't
the.
actually comment
Okay.
on that. So, but
All
take
right.
it away.
So yeah, and yeah, I thought that was an interesting call out in yesterday's AMA too, which I think was healthy. That people closer to actually seeing behind the scenes on some of these shouldn't be influencing the decision of the community. I think that does make sense and creates for a more healthy environment. So,
Oh
Neindorf,
yeah.
what do
Well,
you
I'll
think?
just interject real quick and say, I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I don't think that there was anybody in the in the mod community and among the knights who is at all trying to influence the project. I think
Sure.
but there was a whole lot of of let's say vitriol even a whole bunch of or much nicer a really bunch of really passionate comments about it, and and it's important to still moderate the channel as well. And if that came across as, oh, we're trying to shill for this project, that's definitely not the intent. But
Right.
it's always a hard balance to strike. So that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I would say I actually avoid the standard DFK Discord outside of the hero bot. At this point, I just find it kind of challenging to extract the information that I need between the memes, which is fine. I just I as I said earlier with the crystals, I feel like I just have to focus my energy in this game into only a select few number of spots. And so that was a relatively ignorant comment based on just what I heard in the AMA yesterday. So certainly not trying to call out or say that necessarily was the case. So
No
thank
worries.
you for that. Okay, Neindorf, what do you think of DFK Arena?
So, I honestly I haven't looked too closely at it because I've been, there's been a couple of bug reports and things and features on the site that I've been spending my time on. So I can't speak really to exactly what it is. I haven't had a chance to. I mean, the thread is large already, um, but I mean, I think I get the gist of it. I I think I don't know. Personally, I like the concept of anything that we can do to add. It's kind of like it's like the algorithms that like social media companies use. They want to keep you in the game, right? They want to keep your eyes on this system. And I think that's useful, right? And that's going to provide value. So like if there's more games like this that can keep people in the DeFi Kingdoms environment, I think that's going to be beneficial to everybody. Um, so I like it. I just yeah, it was just a little different than I expected, as we had previously talked about. But I think it's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this could be a really fun like side quest, if you will.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it from I think as guilds continue to develop or like Discord communities like merge into or become a guild, I think that, like features like this will be a lot of fun where it's almost like um, like playing pool in your guild hall or playing darts in your guild hall. Well, you're taking your assets and you're doing some combat mechanisms that you could just have as a club inside your guild, and create some fun ways to utilize your downtime and do, like, it's like a small competition, and who doesn't like that? So I like it. I like we said earlier today, I thought I was impressed with how far along they were in development, and I'm looking forward to see where this nets out. Okay, well, that's all that we had on the pre-planned agenda today. So, Mr. Zipper, thank you very much for your time as always, and your
pleasure.
dedication to the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Neindorf, thank you as well, and thank you to our listeners out there, and good luck on the perilous journey. I'm going to be signing out now.
All right. Thank you.